to talk because mental health is important. Welcome our special guest, Kwayne Farrell.
Good afternoon, everybody.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Kwayne Farrell. I am a counselling psychologist. I've been practicing psychology for about 15 years or so.
A million years.
Not a million, I'm not that old, but about 15 years. I've worked at a local drug rehab facility. I've also been working at a medical school, international medical school, for the past just about almost 3 years now. And I also have a private practice with my lovely wife, my business partner, my name is Kwayne Farrell.
Who will be on later.
Yes. Who's also a counselor, mental health counselor. And throughout my years, I've encountered many different persons, many different situations, dealt with a number of clients, local and international, and a number of difficult cases, heartbreaking cases, but also some uplifting cases.
Okay. Pick a number between 1 and 10 for your icebreaker question.
So,
Okay. If you could have dinner with any fictional character, who would it be?
fiction. That's a good one. That has me stumped. Fictional character.
Fictional.
Probably Alex Cross from the detective books. I just find his character fascinating. Mixture of lawman and psychologist. So I think that's when he piqued my interest in terms of reading those books. And very interesting character. So yeah, would be an interesting discussion.
He's a cool person. I wonder who I would pick. I'd probably end up picking like a cartoon character. That has nothing to do with anything. I feel like I would change it and I'd be like, I'm going to go into Ed and Eddie and have one of their jawbreakers where it doesn't break my jaw. Because I've had jawbreakers before when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously they're not that big because your mouth can't stretch that far.
Yeah.
But it looks so good when they're eating it. Like their mouth is just salivating. Or maybe something like, I wouldn't say something cliche like Superman or Batman. First of all, I don't like Batman, but that's an opinion that rocks people sometimes.
So a Batman.
He's just a millionaire. That's all he is. He learned how to fight. Good for him. But he's literally just a millionaire. Just like Arrow. The Arrow. He's just a traumatized millionaire too. If you want to be called a superhero, you have to be super.
He's super intelligent.
He's not super. He's not super anything. Nothing happened to him. He didn't get bit by a spider. He didn't fall from some planet somewhere else. He didn't get radioactive. He didn't fall into a pit. He didn't anything. He just one day he said, you killed my mom and dad and I'm going to work. It's cool. But at the same time, it was just revenge. And then it just so happens that he lives in a place with a lot of psychotic characters.
There was one, I'm not sure if it's an actual comic series or a fan theory that he's actually not Batman. He's actually a patient in Arkham. And all of those villains, the superheroes are actually figments of his imagination or different parts of his personality. He's actually
they're all in there with him. That was like the Joker 2 that's coming out. I feel like the Joker 2, one, I love musicals, but I hate the fact that it is going to be a musical. Why is it a musical? It's a Joker.
The next Joker?
The one with Joaquin Phoenix. And Lady Gaga. It's going to be a musical. Why is it a musical? Anyways, that's off topic. But I feel like that movie, I haven't seen it yet because it hasn't come out, but I feel like just how they're telling that story, they haven't left the asylum. They're just in there imagining all of that. Because from the trailers, it's like, what is going on?
Yeah,
With the stuff that y'all have done, there's no way that they're letting you go.
I didn't watch the last Batman. I barely watched the last Joker. So
the last Joker was more psychological.
It was good, but
I like how they gave him a story. Because usually the Joker doesn't have a name. The Joker doesn't have like a backstory. But they made him not relatable. Because that's...
lose a job, snap.
But he also has mental health issues. And then in the movie, it's like you can tell what was real and what was not real, which I liked about that. Which is why I think the second one, it's not going to be real. Like, they're just insane and in this insane asylum.
And to be honest, I just can't tell if some of these trailers are real, if they're AI, if they're just fan created. So I just actually just wait till an actual release date for a lot of the stuff they see online now. Because
I don't watch trailers anymore. Like, of things I actually think, oh, I might watch. I just look at the name and go to the movie and go, because they tell the entire story. So Planet of the Apes, I didn't know what happened in the movie until I got into the movie and I watched the movie. And I was like, makes sense. Anyways, so let's get into our topic.
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. I feel imposter syndrome all the time.
Yeah.
Especially since I'm newer. Oh, backstory. He was my supervisor when I was an intern. And now he can't get rid of me. So he deals.
It was actually a very pleasant experience. You were actually a really talented intern.
Except for when I cried every day.
You're supposed to cry. There's nothing wrong with crying. And I think that's one of the good things to recognize, and it plays a part in this same topic, is recognizing that even though you may be experienced or talented or have various skills, you can have issues with imposter syndrome, with it. It's being called imposter phenomenon, other different terms, I guess, to try to make it seem a little bit less of a syndrome or specific issues, and something that can actually be more manageable. And I think a lot of us professionals at some point have experienced those thoughts, those feelings of feeling not adequate enough, not accomplished enough, feeling that you're persons that are more suitable, more capable to fill the particular roles that you may be in, whether it's at work, whether it's in life. I think the difference is this can become so overwhelming and consuming that it can lead to a lot of other difficulties and can actually cause you to not partake in a lot of the activities that you like to go after, or a lot of opportunities that you would want. In terms of the actual issue, many persons have suffered from this. I was looking at, in terms of doing some of the research for this presentation, definitely had to do some. Because my own imposter syndrome started to kick in. Is like, am I really qualified to be talking about any
so
of this?
So it doesn't go away even after 15 years in the business? So to me, you have all the answers because, started as your supervisee. And then I ask you questions all the time. So to me, it's like, yeah, if I have no idea what's going on, I'll ask Kwayne or Renee, and they'll give me the answer. So to me, you having imposter syndrome is crazy.
And I think a lot of times we look at these issues as totally problematic or totally negative. And yes, they will have negative aspects to it. Yes, it can stop you sometimes, especially if it becomes too intense or seeking opportunities. But what it actually does is it can also make sure that you do research, that you do go after, you do study for that exam, you do take extra classes, extra courses, you tack on to different supervisors, and tackle persons who have been in the field in whatever area, and you're picking your brain constantly. What you have to hopefully be able to do is quiet that voice that says, you're still not good enough, you're still not good enough. And recognize that, well, you know what, everyone started at the beginning at some point. And so too can I. And to recognize that when you do have 15 years of experience, that does come for something. And you can continue to just keep pushing through, and challenge those thoughts that do come. And try to manage those feelings that do come. And it's not to say that they won't ever come up, or the thoughts will never come. I think once you're in situations that are similar, that will sort of challenge those thoughts of competency and ability, capabilities, those thoughts will come. Those feelings of fear and anxiety will come. Those thoughts of self-doubt will come. But it's as you continue to grow and you continue to mature in your field, you recognize, you know what, I can be fearful, I can have doubts, but I can still get a job.
I also feel like if this is so relatable across the board to any field, because you graduate UE, and then you feel like, what did I learn? I've been here forever, and you're going through so much trauma. I'm gonna call it trauma because it's just like blood, sweat, and tears to get to the end of your degree. Sometimes you fail stuff, but you have to do it over, and you're cramming stuff into your brain. And then by the time you get to the end of it, it's like it was a daze. It's like, what happened in the past 4 years or 2 years or whatever degree you're doing? And then you go into the work field and you're asked to do that job. And technically you're qualified to do it because you did all the courses and you passed them and you have your degree. But then you go, somebody's giving me control over this. Especially if you're in a work field with like kids or people that you have to be responsible for, and you're like, well, I'm still a kid.
You're looking for the adult in the room and you realize, I am the adult in the room.
Yeah. Somebody told me that the other day where they were just like, oh, if a kid fell down, they would come to me and ask me for help. And I was like, why? Why would you come to me? But then I thought about it, and I was like, yes, because I'm supposed to have the Band-Aid. I'm supposed to help them. So then it just makes you realize that everybody's just a child, just in a bigger body. And we're all scared to be a part of this world. You just put on a big front and pretend sometimes. Fake it till you make it.
And faking it till you make it. That's what internship is about, really. And I think that's why having those opportunities to do internships, opportunities to tag along with a supervisor, to pick someone who's seasoned, if it's not in this field where you take clerkships and entry-level jobs, and you sort of shadow persons who have been in the position that you want for longer, you also recognize they also have similar rights to you. At the different stops, I've sort of picked the brains of my different supervisors or directors or seniors and recognize, hold on, a lot of them have had the same issues I've had or are having, and it's not uncommon to have doubts or to question or to make mistakes. And I think that's one of the big things that fuels this issue is that fear of making mistakes, of being exposed, of being a fraud. That's the backgrounds that will yes, I did do all my years at uni, but then they will recognize, someone will recognize that I shouldn't have got this degree. I didn't really earn it. And, what is uni? Right? And so a lot of times you have that feeling of being exposed as a fraud. I think I've had this conversation with you before that whenever I go off on vacation, on vacation, so I'll probably have this when I go back. Funny enough, I think I'm doing a workshop as soon as I go back as well. I always have that overwhelming anxiety of, do I forget everything that I know? Will they recognize that I don't know everything? Will they take away the keys, take away the degree? All of that comes up, and then after a few deep breaths and challenging those thoughts, then you're able to settle in. But it's there, right? And I think it's been there probably before my first degree, probably before CHC, maybe as early as 11 plus. When I did pass QC, when I got into classes, you're going to realize that my 11 plus was a fluke, and I already deserved to be here. And those thoughts were there from all back. And a lot of times it can come from childhood traumas, it can come from how you interpret messages from significant persons in your life. So you come home with a particular grade and you're happy with this grade, and you're like, hey, mom, dad, look, I got a B, and they're looking at me like, oh, you got a B, that's
not an A.
Yeah. And what did so and so get? Oh, they got an A. Oh, their parents must be really proud of them.
So you get miniature proud when their parents get.
Right, and so you sort of learn that if it isn't an A, it just go away. I actually saw that in a meme recently. I think I sent that one to you. I can't remember. Where this person was doing a skit with that same situation, where their parents was like, if you don't get an A, just go away. And so they had to make sure and have that pressure. And so when you have that pressure on you constantly, even when you do achieve the A's, it doesn't feel like it's enough. It doesn't feel like it's genuine, and there's no satisfaction because it really isn't about you. It's about the persons around you. And so eventually that can lead to that feeling of, am I a fraud? Is this really me?
Yeah. That took me to two different places. So with the workplace situation, do you think it's imposter syndrome when the supervisors don't want to help you? When you go into that situation and they're like guarding their position. Because there's some of them who, as soon as you enter, you're trying to be enthusiastic about the job and you're trying to learn more information, but they kind of say either, I don't want you to go ahead of me, so I don't want you to learn all that I have in my head, or is it more so of they feel like if they don't know enough, so they don't want you to think that they don't know anything, so they're just gonna shut you down?
Or it might actually be a combination of the two, and I think too, especially with education, there's always new things. I remember trying to help the daughter with her CXC maths, and I was pretty good at maths. Let me tell you, that was a humbling experience because it's still maths, but there were different techniques, different ways of doing things, and it was just so confusing. So sometimes, depending on how long you've been in the field, persons may, that feeling of inadequacy may sort of creep in, especially when persons have just come out of the university are there and they're answering 1,000,001 questions, things that you may have forgotten you were even around. some point. And so I guess that's where the continuing education comes into play, and you have to keep yourself relevant, in tune with all of the nuances of therapy and treatments that are coming out. But it can be a little bit of that in terms of not feeling that you know enough, or you are still at the top of your game in your field. Or sometimes it may just be carrying a position, because unfortunately in this field there are not a lot of openings. There's definitely more demand than there is positions, and so when you do find a job, persons tend to guard it throughout their lives. So sometimes sharing all of their inner secrets and tips and tricks isn't on the forefront of their mind. Is like, let me keep my job and not let this new intern or this new person try to edge me out, especially if closer to retirement age, when they just try to that's what you do and get that new, young, vibrant person. And so there can be lots of different situations that will play into that. It also depends as well on the type of environment. There are some environments that you go in and persons yard knowledge of the school, so no one is helping them. You old best friends, whatever. You're just like, okay, I'm keeping my stuff so that I can keep my position. And then there are other places that are there and they're open and they're willing to teach and help and encourage. Wherever I've been, I've tried to sort of encourage that sort of format, because to me, I mean, at some point I gotta go off of this planet, and I'd like to leave a legacy of encouragement and education, and that sort of love and empathy, because I knew how it was being an intern and going through university and the stresses and strain of that sweat and tears. So I've never taken up the position that, I had it hard, so I got to make sure it's just as hard or doubly hard for you. No, I want to make it as easy as possible, but so challenging, so that when you do leave under my care as a supervisor, that you can go into the world and help others. So I don't want to crush your spirit and then I don't want to ever do this job. No, I want to encourage you to be better than you. While I am teaching you, I'm also learning from you as much as possible. So to me, that's the approach I've tried to take, because I've had some wonderful people throughout my lifetime that have guided me, encouraged me, helped me to get to the counselor I am right now. So for me to not pass that on, would do them injustice, to me, do the field injustice.
The second thing, it's on topic, but we're switching from adults to children, because you would have mentioned QC. And recently, someone I know is like a teacher, but they got transferred from a lower school to a higher school. And there were, I'm not going to mention these schools. They were like, oh my goodness, I thought that a person that would go to this higher up school would know how to do reading comprehension and know how to spell this and spell that and all of that. Because they're, I think, an English teacher. And when they're at the lower school, my kids at this school know how to do blah, blah, blah. And the kids at the higher school should know how to do these things. And I feel like that also fosters like the imposter syndrome. Because once you pass for that school at 11 plus, people expect so much from you that they kind of leave you on the edge of the road and just are like, well, you gotta fend for yourself because you're the smart one, so you know how to figure it out. But if they really pay attention to things, like for me, when I was in primary school, I went to a lot of lessons. I didn't need lessons for maths or English, but I was more advanced in my class. Like, there were a certain number of us that were more advanced, and my teacher, how she did it, she did 2 sets of lessons. So like Mondays and Wednesdays and Tuesdays and Thursdays. And Mondays and Wednesdays was like people that were more advanced, that she didn't want to like keep you back while you were
in the class.
Yeah, so that you could go forward. And Tuesdays and Thursdays were the ones who were struggling. And then during the day, we would be paired up with each other to try to move along. Yeah. So you would learn it during the day and then like move forward in your lessons class. And with doing all of those lessons, of course I got better at doing what I was supposed to be doing because I had a lot of practice doing it. And then when you get into secondary school, they're like, oh, well, you got into a higher secondary school, so you must be brilliant, you must be so intelligent. And it's just like, no, I just had a lot of practice doing what, I mean, I might be smart and I might have the talent to do stuff, but also someone fostered my growth. Someone helped me along the way. They pushed the capabilities that I had, the talent that I had, and they said, okay, let's focus on this so that you can get further. And then when I got into secondary school, it was just like, all of y'all are the bright ones, so y'all can get this done. And with me, yeah, figuring out how to do that by myself, because I felt completely alone at that point. It was like, all right, math and English isn't as easy in secondary school, but it's easier in primary school, so your parents can help you with that. Then when you get into secondary school, it's not as easy, so they're like, I don't know if I can help you with that one. So then I started to go to math lessons. And with that, I did great, because I had the extra help. But for things like chemistry and physics and
Spanish and French,
all of those, it was just like, if I don't go to lessons, I have no idea what's going on. And the lesser schools have a lot of lessons teachers. Their teachers turn into lessons teachers on the weekends. So you will find the higher up schools going to those lessons, and those are the people that are excelling at the higher up schools because they're going to extra lessons. And it's like people are not paying attention to the fact that it has nothing to do with what school you're going to. It's the fact you're going extra lessons and you're doing all of this, and then the people who are struggling are the ones who can't afford lessons, or the ones who are just like, I got into this secondary school and now I don't want to work anymore because this was the only goal that I had. So I feel like imposter syndrome comes with that. That's a kind of complicated topic that I just brought up. But I feel like imposter syndrome comes with that because of the fact that people push you or have this stigma on you. It might not necessarily be a negative one all the time, but just they're like, you should be able to get this done. And then when you don't, or when your CXCs aren't great, because I struggled with my mental health during CXC time, just because a lot of different things were going on in life, and a lot of that happens for most people who are going through CXCs. Things are changing, friends are changing, your body is changing, all of these changes are happening, and you're just starting to struggle because there's so much workload, because people are trying to do 12 CXCs, all sorts, just so that they could be more competitive for university, or just because their parents are putting pressure on them, or they're putting pressure on themselves. So then you just go and you're like, I'm failing all of a sudden when I used to be so bright, and now I'm having this kind of shock to my system of what is going on. I don't know how to do this anymore. I'm supposed to be bright, and everyone keeps telling me I'm supposed to be bright, and I'll get through. And even teachers have this, especially the ones that come from other schools, are having this kind of view on me of, you should have this figured out. So they're not giving me, they're not teaching it to me. They're kind of just walking in and being like, oh, do this. And you're like, you haven't taught me how to do it. And they're like, I shouldn't have to break this down for you. They used to do that a lot when I was in secondary school. They're like, I shouldn't have to break this down for you. You should know how to do this. And it's just like, how do you know how to do this?
Yeah, and I think the transition from 11 plus to to secondary school is a very difficult one. And keeping along the lines of the imposter syndrome, I remember being one of the top boys in the country, name in that top 100 list or 50 list or whichever it is, and then going to Queen's College, and I don't think I ever came
Because now
in
you're
teens.
among the best of the best.
Exactly. So, like, all the rest of the names that were on that list were in my class. The top girl and the top boy were in my class from that year. And it was a rude awakening. Because I would say other than, as you said, doing lessons and stuff, I really never had to push myself at primary school.
It was easy to figure out some of this stuff because it was like life experience would help you along. And now when you get into secondary school, you're actually learning things that you've never come across before or come across in that way.
Yeah, so it was a difficult transition, and I think because of my laid-back personality, along with that, a little bit of that imposter syndrome kicking in, am I really supposed to be here? I probably never really pushed myself. It was like, all right, I just need to pass and get in the next year level. Which probably didn't please my parents too much, but they were supportive enough. Children, kept pushing and encouraging them to do better. But to be honest, I don't think I ever pushed, because if I did, then would I actually find out that I am a fraud?
That is me. I am so afraid of failing, or at least, like, especially with things that are right and wrong. I try not to push myself to the limit, so that if I do feel, I could be like, well, I didn't try that hard. I didn't try my hardest. I didn't give it my everything. That's not a good thing to do. But
Definitely not a good thing to
it
do,
feels like if you have to do that to protect yourself. Because if you don't do it, then everyone's going to make fun of you because...
Look at how hard she tried.
Yeah.
And then she didn't get through. And even in work now, you see that so often where medical students sometimes will talk about the pressure to perform and wondering whether or not they deserve to be here. I mean, persons will be calling themselves dumb and stupid, and like, you're a medical student. This is the top of the top of the top in terms of educational levels. It's this and law school. It's like almost, it's tertiary business. And so you can't make it here without being intelligent. And I think that's one of the things that sort of helped me, is that realizing, well, you've made it through each form level. You've never come close to being first, but there's never really a goal of mine. Probably because we're realizing it's very unrealistic already. Maybe could be. I knew that I could at least navigate that. I don't think I've really pushed myself until maybe the master's level, where I really went after stuff, and even then it was like, should I actually go? Because then what if?
The master's programs are so like competitive to get into. People don't really realize that. With bachelors, there are like hundreds of people in your class. Once you get to like masters, it's like 20 maximum. So you have to like edge out everybody to get into that program, and then you're like fighting to get top points of things, which actually brings me to what you were just saying about feeling like if you're at the top, having to stay there is also a thing. Because when you're at the bottom, you're like, I didn't try that hard. There are those people But then there are the ones who are getting top and feeling like, I will have this imposter syndrome. I'm a fraud if I don't keep at the top.
And I think I would have to really say a big thank you to my dad for his response to my A-level scores. Because I think we were one of the last, so I'll date myself now, one of the last A-level years. And that was, if not the last, one of the last A-level years. And it was
Before it switched to Kate,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah, before it switched to Kate, because you hear about Kate now, Kate now. Yeah, we were A-level, and I don't know if they decided they were going to go out swinging. So, oh, you want to change? Okay, we'll see. And it was hard. I mean, really hard. Maths was one of my top subjects at that point in time. And I looked at that paper like, this is maths, right? Not French. I remember the guy next to me, the proctor had to come around and be like, okay, because he kept stripping off layers of clothing. It was like the school tie and his shirt, took off his shoes, his socks. The only thing he had on was at the end, his vest and his pants. I actually ran into him recently in Sky Mall, and I was like, wow. And that image came up. And I remember sitting down and looking out the window and watching QC play some of the team in basketball.
It's like, I can't answer these questions, so.
But somehow, some miracle, I passed. And it was like, my parents looked at the ground, and my dad was like, you try your best. And it's like, yeah. So, you happy with your grade? Over the moon, I did not fail. So, okay, well, you happy, I'm happy. And from then on, I was like, you know what? I need to take pressure off of myself about being this top performer, because at the end of the day, it really is about me, not about pleasing anybody, because the person I'm thinking and letting down is, you did your best, probably you, not gonna kiss you, and that was the end of that. And so I think that took some pressure off in pushing at university, and even from my master's level, this is like, you know what, you know the word, as much as you know the word, you're just doing, do your best, whatever happens. Did really, really well. Ended up with a distinction. Is distinction there? Whatever it's called. Just can't remember. Because I just try not to focus on the results as much anymore, because once I start to focus on the results, then that starts to kick back up. Is it as good as it should be? I'm sure someone else did better, and then that starting to compare yourself to others. So I just do my best, give it my all, and that's it. And so that's where now I try to do, in terms of work, in terms of when I have presentations, like, have I done my best? Have I given my all? Yeah? Is there more I probably could have done? Could I have answered that question a little differently? Obviously. And I try not to do the post-mortem after, because then that is also going to kick up. And then obviously that imposter syndrome can lead to a lot of anxiety. We do have things coming up that lead to a lot of depression, depending on whether you do try something, and even sometimes when you don't try something, because then you thought, oh, start beating yourself, you should have gone for it. Look at so and so, they did it, they're getting through, why can't you ever? Right, so it can lead to a lot of other issues. So I've been trying over the years to not put that extra pressure on myself. So just try to do my best. That's all I can do. So, I'm telling some of my students recently that I'm trying to practice what I preach in terms of doing a little bit more in terms of self-care. And so I'm trying to do that as well when it comes to that, putting that extra pressure. I usually try to tell them, minimize the comparisons to others, which is difficult to do because the first things that come up when the test score comes out, the rank, in terms of class rank and all of that. So the school inherently sort of compares you to others, and so then it can be very difficult to sort of put on those blinders and blockers and just really focusing on what you need to do, and not worry about which race, who else is running the same race. So I've been trying my best to practice what I preach in terms of that self-care and not putting as much pressure and just focusing on how best I can perform in a particular. That's what I was.
Yeah, it did. It's just making me think about how I approach things. Because with starting my own business, I have had a lot of imposter syndrome with it because of how things happened. So it didn't fall into my lap. I worked hard to do everything I had to do and to get where I am. But then there were like certain things that had happened where it was just like, did I deserve this? Did I really work for this? And it's just the negative thoughts in your head. It has nothing to do with like reality. And every time something goes wrong, then you go, okay, does this mean that I'm failing? Will this fall apart now? And being your own boss, being an entrepreneur and fighting to grow something, that's like the ultimate testing yourself and pushing yourself. And especially when the voices come in your head and are telling you, no, you can't do it, this will fail, this will fall apart. And even if there is success that's happening, the next moment that something doesn't really go as you want it to go, then it starts all over again. And when you give people advice, just like you were saying, you tend to do the positive and you're like, oh, you can do it, and I believe in you, and you worked hard for this, look at all of the things that you've done. But then you don't stop and do it for yourself. And I've had to stop and start to look at all the things that I've done in the past year or two and just be like, wow, I've done a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it all hasn't been like sunshine and rainbows. There have been tears, there have been struggles, but that doesn't mean that I didn't do it. I still did it. I still gave it all that I could give it. And even in moments where I couldn't give it 100%, like what I thought was 100%, I was still giving it my 100%, which goes to that picture that has how every day is different. Your 100% will look different on each day. And I had to draw that and put that up in my room to see it every day, because sometimes you just struggle and you're like, I don't have the energy to do this today. And just reminding yourself, that's okay. Sometimes you'll be able to get 25 tasks done in one day, and sometimes you'll only be able to get one. As being dramatic, not 25, but technically, right? I count waking up, brushing my teeth, those are all tasks. So by the time you count it, it's like 25 tasks. It might not all be work tasks, But you should still be proud of yourself that you ate something, that you had a shower, that you had water, that you,
Spoke to someone.
yes, because those are things in this day and age
Yeah.
where it's so hard to do everything. First of all, outside is so hot, and then like cost of living has gone up so much that you're just struggling all the time.
I'm just waiting for the breathing tax.
Yeah. So it's just like every second of every day, it feels like if you have to do another thing and another thing and another thing, and sometimes just going, okay, I may not have accomplished the 12 things that my boss wanted me to do today or that I set for myself to do today, but I did enough to take care of myself, because a lot of clients come in and they're just like not taking care of themselves, and then when you go, okay, so what about you? They're like, oh, I forgot to eat today. I forgot to do X, Y, and Z. And you're just like,
Scratch and move from a desk and only went to the bathroom twice.
so you realize that if you drop down, like, you're not gonna be able to do the job anymore. And they're like, yeah, but they're not gonna understand that. And then it's just like, it doesn't matter if they understand that at this point.
And it's not about them, because I mean, they are going to replace you.
Yes, I keep telling them that. Not even in a negative way of being like, oh, you have to push yourself harder because you're replaceable. It's more like you have to take care of yourself even more now because you are replaceable. Like, if you die today, no one is going to be like, they're going to mourn you and they're going to be sad. But the people who are the head of corporations are going to be like, okay, that sucks. Let's go on to the next. And that's just how business is. So you have to look at it and be like, okay, yes, I value how much I put into my work and I want to be successful and climb the ladder and do whatever else. But at the same time, if I don't take care of myself, no one else is going to take care of myself. And I struggle to tell myself that.
And it is difficult. It took me a long time to actually start doing private work. I mean, a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think my colleagues literally like headlocked me and forced me into private. Like, yeah, I have this person here that we need to see someone, we need to see them privately, and you're going to do it. You are going to do it. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to, they use this particular office and blah, 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 blah. And I think that's how I started the journey into having private practice now. And I think that's where the imposter syndrome kicked up even more. It was like, I'm good enough to do this on my own, where I don't have the cushion and work and colleagues, and I can just run down the office and be like, and it's not that I, at that point in time, I was doing that, but that safety net was there, that I can always do that. And it's not that you don't have persons that you can't consult with, because I do consult with of my colleagues, still pick the brains of some of my old supervisors as well. But it feels different when you have that private practice, and you have to get clientele. It's still not. So I give you kudos for the social media. Every time I see one of your posts, I'm like, we'll see. Good for you. Keep going. Because not there yet. But I think I have the bones there, but not there yet. Right? And it isn't, and that fear can creep in, that am I really doing this properly can creep in when you're seeing all of these other persons, when they see you sending out posts and posts. Am I doing this right if I'm not online? Right? And
Which is funny because sometimes I feel like if I'm wasting time doing that.
And that's the thing is, persons will see it and call you. Persons would call you blue and be like, hey, got your name from somebody so and so. So there are different ways of doing it, and which is why having on those blenders sometimes, yes, you want to see what other people are doing and see, well, is that something that I can incorporate? Because, as I say, imitation is a form of flattery. So, yes, looking at other persons, what they do, and engaging in that can be good, but it can also be detrimental because it can really put that. Yeah, in terms of doing private practice, I'm wondering and seeing some of my other colleagues that have been doing it for years and have a solid platform and a solid practice, and they seem to be generating clientele on a regular basis. And then the first year or so, we were having a client here, having a client there, a few here, a few there. But things have picked up a little bit more, a few more opportunities, or at least a few more calls. They don't always materialize into actual persons sitting out in front of you. But you recognize that as you continue to do good work and you continue to stay consistent, that will continue to build. And I think that's where the self-confidence comes in to sort of counteract that imposter syndrome, is recognizing that self-confidence isn't a one-time thing and it isn't a feeling, but it's a skill that you develop and you have to develop it, right? Continuously engaging, because Bernie Brown talks about how to get into the arena. And being in the arena can sometimes be scary because you can be knocked on your butt at times. But the goal, to me, success can be so varied, and failure can be so varied in terms of definition. For me, success is, can I keep getting back up and going into the arena? Failure for me is not trying, or not trying something different. So trying the same thing over and over and over and not getting anywhere, that can be a little bit of insanity. But can I figure out different ways of trying to build this business, trying to build myself and continuing to grow personally and professionally? And so it's putting myself out and doing things like this, which my typical personality is not do. Definitely not anything to do with any cameras, nothing to do with the public.
But there's no one else in the room at the time.
Don't make a difference. Once it has anything to do with the public, that's when the anxiety, that's when that imposter syndrome kicks in, and persons recognize you have no idea what you're talking about.
But you have so much ideas about what you're talking about.
And that's where taking those breaths, grounding yourself, and tapping into that, those past victories, those past successes, those past times where I have gotten through an interview, or have done an article, or have given an interview, or have presented at a workshop on radio or TV, where getting through those kicks in and be like, you've done this before, you can do it again. And if need be, you can just snatch up Simone's hard drive and listen to all of this.
We could. That would be mean.
Yeah, it would.
Okay, so that leads me into the perfect closing question for you, which is, what has been the most rewarding aspect of your journey so far, so professionally?
Professionally, I have to say, seeing the growth and progress of the clients, the students, of myself as well. So just saying that growth and that progress, and even for clients that whether it's at who may have or may relapse, this particular client that still reaches out and whenever he's trying again, and like, hey Kwayne, just now you know, trying again, and we're checking every few days, every few weeks, and like, still trying, still doing this, still here. So it's things like that that I think are the most rewarding, and recognizing that I do have an impact, and so things like that can help me quieten that committee that tells you, well, you're nothing different. And so recognizing I have helped others, whether it's through one-on-one counseling, whether it's group therapy, whether it's from rehab, whether it's doing workshops, presentations, as being a supervisor, and I have helped others. And I'm actually putting those things into practice. I'm also helping myself to grow and continue to be a better counselor.
All right, so I want to thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you for that.
And thank you so much for watching We Need to Talk. See you next time. Bye.